Armored Core for Answer. The first ever Armored Core game I have ever played, and my god, was it an unforgettable experience. And I'm happy to tell you all about it right now. First thing I'd like to discuss is the game's combat. And, well, it is extremely fast. This high-speed combat genuinely makes me feel like an anime protagonist. And, obviously, it makes the game very fast-paced. The thing is, though, you need to be fast, as there are no iframes in this game. I mean, you have to actually dodge an attack, rather than just pressing the dodge button to become invincible. You have to legitimately just move out the way. This isn't Dark Souls, this is Armored Core. We play as an independent mercenary known as Strayed, and we pilot what is known as a Next, and the pilots of these are called Links. Throughout this video, I'm going to be referring our Next either as an AC or a Next interchangeably. Just know that they're essentially the same thing. The mission system for Armored Core for Answer is shown right here in the main menu. Here we can see 3 different mission types: attack on PA N51, eliminate Procyon, and here the one I've currently selected in the screenshot, defeat AF Great Wall. This request comes from the client known as Algebra. And depending on which mission you select will determine its value, but more importantly, which corporation you are currently working for. And one more thing to note about this is that depending on how many missions you do for a specific corporation, will actually unlock more higher value missions directly from them later on throughout the game. And also, alongside this, each mission also comes with a mission briefing. Here's one taken from GA America.
Here's the mission. The client is GA America. Your target is the Interior Union's land-based arms sport unit. The enemy is currently pursuing a GA America transport unit through the Loro Desert. Your task is to neutralize them before they can take out GA's forces. The Interior Union arms forts are armed with multiple strafing lasers. Once our transports come in range of those weapons, they'll be dead in the sand. Keep that in mind. Basically, we just need you to take it out fast. Nothing fancy. That's it. This is a good job for the right links. Contact us.
Now, in the early game, you'll usually get low payout missions that will only be able to help you get any other weapons and stuff other than just like really cheap weaponry. Moreover, you also won't have access to many weapon parts or AC parts until you progress further into the game. Now, for purpose of this video, I've already maxed out everything so you can see, but if you manage to get a copy of this game or emulate it, like I'm doing here, you'll need to grind through the missions in order to be able to unlock these parts in order for you to use them. Mind you, you still gotta pay for majority of them, so don't think you're getting any freebies there, buddy. Now, once you have all the parts that you want to be able to buy from the store or whatnot, you can then begin to customize your AC, which will eventually lead to the 3 different types of ACs that are created in this game. Typically, there are 3 types of Next builds that exist. You have your heavyweight, lightweight, and midweight builds. Extremely slow, but very tanky, these walking giants are able to carry immense firepower up on their backs. However, on the downside, they move extremely slowly. For all that firepower and stalwart defense, they can't really move out of the way of attacks that would otherwise nullify their extremely high defense. Lightweight builds are on the opposite end of the spectrum. They can't really carry that much more powerful firepower when compared to the other builds. However, they make up for it with extreme speed, being able to easily outpace any other Next on the battlefield with complete ease. This high speed also makes them very hard to hit. However, they're also extremely fragile, meaning it only takes a few well-placed shots to knock these birds out of the air fairly quickly. Midweight builds are the perfect middle ground, a perfect bridge between a heavy and a lightweight. I can take on all missions generally fairly easily. They can carry almost all types of weaponry regardless of its weight, and are usually the most common type of builds a player would make when first starting out. And as a matter of fact, it is my own personal favorite type of build to make in the whole game. What I typically use are midweight builds. And from time to time, I like to cosplay as characters from other games, like V1, or in this instance, a character from the Armored Core franchise that haunts longtime fans of the Armored Core series, a legendary AC known as 9-Ball. I have the specific build that I copied from right here in the description if you want to take a look at it. Now, at the beginning, I mentioned a little bit about the combat of the game, but didn't really go in depth about it. So, here I go. Quick boosting. As a mechanic, it allows the Nex to quickly dodge attacks. However, as I mentioned prior, this does not give the player iframes, meaning if you wish to dodge into attacks, you'll get hit regardless if you boost it or not. If you want to be more effective with quick boosting, you need to move either directly left or right to avoid oncoming projectiles or missiles. Thankfully, however, projectiles in this game have travel time, meaning if you have a fast enough reaction time, you can just avoid getting hit by just simply boosting away. Again, you don't have iframes, so just move away before it hits you. Assault boosting. Assault boosting is a mechanic that can be used to either close the distance between enemies or reach a target that is far away. However, this also drains primal armor, which, if you let it drain fully, will cause you to stop wholeheartedly and leave you vulnerable, so make sure to manage your energy. Primal armor. Primal armor is a type of force field that reduces damage taken. It won't make you invincible, but it will certainly take a majority of the damage you'd otherwise take away. However, for whatever reason, if your primal armor is drained out due to taking too much damage or hit by weaponry that specifically targets it, will leave you vulnerable, and as such, you will take way more damage than you normally would otherwise. Assault armor. When activated, it will cause the Nex to create a Kojima explosion, draining them of all their primal armor to 0, but leaving the Nex completely unscathed. The explosion is directly at the center of the Nex and is extremely strong, as will typically one-shot most enemies that are within its range, or that are extremely close to the enemy next. And speaking of enemy next, if you were to hit one with your own assault armor, it will drain their primal armor to 0 and deal a nice chunk of damage to them, leaving them extremely vulnerable and much easier to take out on your own. Now the last part I wish to discuss is the enemies, specifically the two most common that you will encounter in the game, MTs and normals. MTs are the most common type of enemies you will encounter throughout the game. Each of them serve the corporations for whatever purpose. Overall, they're not particularly strong, but usually come in large groups. They can be taken out fairly easily, so no need to worry about it. Normals. They come in multiple types that I'll be going over now. Normals are the second most common enemy and are essentially frontline soldiers for the corporations. Normals will typically take a style directly from the corporation they're from. For example, GA America will have their normals be fairly tanky and carry very strong firepower like bazookas and missile launchers. However, these are slow and lumbering, so they can be taken out by just putting enough lead into them. Or if it's something like Algebra, they'll have normals that will move fairly quickly and will attempt to rush down enemies with extremely powerful melee weapons. However, unlike GA America, who can take a hit, Algebra's normals can't, and they can usually be taken out fairly quickly. Between these two, the MTs and normals, they aren't particularly strong or dangerous on their own. However, they usually work alongside one very large and extremely dangerous target that we have the unfortunate task of taking out throughout the game. Heavily armed arms forts, or AFs for short. Arms forts comes in many different shapes and sizes, just like normals, MTs, and Nexts. The most common type of arms forts are mobile fortresses. These are fairly large, but aren't the largest type of arms fort to exist. They carry heavy weaponry and typically have giant legs that allow them to walk and crawl towards their targets. Additionally, they're also incredibly tanky and take an enormous amount of firepower to take down. They are, however, typically vulnerable to next grade weaponry, so they can be taken out just by you shooting at them. However, avoid getting hit by them at all costs, especially when around the massive arms forts. Massive arms forts are essentially the giant bosses of the game, and are by far one of the most memorable spectacles you will ever see in Armored Core for Answer. In total, there are 4 massive arms forts: Spirit of Motherwell, Cabrakan, Arms Fort Great Wall, and the Answerer. For the purpose of this video, I will only be talking about Spirit of Motherwell, as it is by far the most iconic massive arm swords in the entire game. The Spirit of Motherwell is a massive 6-legged mobile craft that carries high-powered cannons capable of taking out any group at range with immense firepower, along with missile launchers for close and long-range defense when need be. It is also equipped with lower, high-caliber machine guns and normals to defend on its surface. However, it has one massive flaw. Upon destroying its missile pods launchers and its cannons, it will cause it to overheat. A design flaw that is to be expected of them since they're quite lazy. You didn't know. This particular arm sword was produced by Bernard and Felix Foundation. However, due to its extremely powerful weaponry, we can't simply approach it just by boosting or running towards it. So, the next gets equipped with an extremely powerful boost module, simply known as the Vanguard Overboost, a powerful tool designed to close the distance between these massive arm swords and eliminate them at close range. They're also used in other missions in which you need to close the distance between targets, but most commonly, the way I've seen it, is to close in targets that have extremely powerful long-range capabilities or defense structures. Arm swords are incredibly well armored, so they can't just be simply hit anywhere. Rather, you have to be hitting them directly in their weak points in order to effectively take them out, which is quite challenging as most of them have extremely powerful weaponry or very strong defense systems enabled upon them. Additionally, the music played during these massive fights with these colossal beasts is incredible and generally unforgettable. Specifically, the theme that we're currently listening to here as I'm talking about the Spirit of Motherwell. The theme known as the Spillet of Motherwell. I'm actually not sure if that's a typo, but it's what it's called in the game, so I'll just leave it at that. And to help finish this video off, I wish to talk about one last part of the game that I have genuinely loved and remember within my heart. That is the music. Oh my god, I love the music in this game. Almost every day I'm listening to a track from this game, whether it be one of the more intense tracks like Remember, or maybe I'm feeling like I want to have something calm, so I'm listening to a track known as Someone's Always Moving on the Surface. Or maybe I'm listening to something I can just enjoy while playing a game like Cosmos. The iconic soundtrack for this game was produced by Kota Hoshino, with some contributions from Hideki Yuki Eto, who are both parts of FromSoft's sound team. And fun fact, Hoshino is known for his work on the Armored Core series, and as also the bassist and vocalist for the band Frequency, which also contribute to the game's soundtrack, which probably explains the game's intense beats in some of its songs. Link in the description if you wish to listen to any of the songs from this game. And as this video is concluding, I will play some songs for you. From the game, of course.